I'd like to call our meeting to order today. We're going to have invocation by Trustee Keith Chadwell.
Let us pray together. O merciful Creator, we pause in our proceedings at this time to invoke your name and your presence upon this gathering, that all our efforts today will be pleasing in your sight. We thank you for the glory and the opportunity of this day and of this occasion. We thank you for the countless number of blessings bestowed upon all of us when they were needed and even when they were undeserved. Embrace us now as we have gathered to strengthen and preserve the mission of North Carolina Central University. As a body, we seek your wisdom today and always, that through you, those who lead, those who support, those who instruct, and those who matriculate will never know a tension of cross perspectives, but realize a melding of minds and realize one common circle of purpose that causes this institution to be a blessed resource to the uplifting of your kingdom. We ask that you imbue us with your spirit and guide our deliberations to achieve this purpose. Make it so that when our labors are done, that ultimately it will be the least of these whose plights are most relieved. We also ask a special blessing for Trustees Johnson and Tidwell, as the paths they walk have been darkened by pernicious challenges and a significant loss. Please shine upon them the light of strength, courage, and celebration. We proclaim these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trustee Chadwell. Next, we'd like to order, please, order. Next, we'd like to have Trustee Coleman do the roll call, please.
Good morning. Chairman Holloway.
Present.
Trustee Abebe. Trustee Allison. Trustee Bell. Trustee Chadwell.
Present.
Trustee Coleman's here. Trustee Dickens. Trustee Johnson. Trustee Mitchell.
Present.
Trustee Slade. Trustee Tidwell. Trustee Belladaris. And Trustee Walker. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I have some chair remarks. As chair of the Board of Trustees, it is my responsibility to remind all members of the board of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict of interest as required by this act. Each member has received the agenda and related information for this Board of Trustees meeting. If any board member knows of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the Board of Trustees at this meeting, the conflict or appearance of conflict should be identified at this time. Hearing none, I seek a motion that the NCCU Board of Trustees adopt the agenda. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, aye. Opposes? So moved. I seek a motion that the NCCU Board of Trustees approve the minutes dated April 26, 2023, May 10th, 2023, and June 16th, 2023. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposes? So moved. I'd like to recognize Chairman Coleman, trustee, to report on Committee on Academic Affairs and Student Affairs.
Trustees, the Division of Academic Affairs has several informational items. The academic affairs updates included the spring 2023 commencement update, the Office of Undergraduate Admissions update, and academic affairs highlights from the College of Arts, Social Sciences and Humanities, University College, the College of Health and Sciences, the School of Education, the School of Library and Informational Sciences, and the School of Law. Are there questions, concerns, or comments on the academic affairs updates for Provost Jackson? If none, Mr. Chair, this concludes my report for the Division of Academic Affairs. Trustees, the Division of Student Affairs has several informational items. The Student Affairs updates included information on the following: SOAR, Fall Move-In, Eagle Mania, new appointment of Assistant Vice Chancellor for Health and Wellness, Dr. Lamarcus Howard, Student Accessibility Services, Campus Recreation and Wellness, Student Health Services, and the NCCU Campus Center. Are there questions, concerns, or comments on the Student Affairs updates for Vice Chancellor Coleman? Hearing none, we will move on to the University Diversity and Inclusion Report provided by Ms. Emily Guzman, Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Are there questions, concerns, or comments on the UNC Annual Diversity and Inclusion Report for Ms. Guzman? If none, Mr. Chair, this concludes my report for the Division of Student Affairs.
Thank you, Trustee Coleman. Next, I'd like to recognize Trustee Dickens, who's going to do the report in behalf of Trustee Tidwell for the Committee on Advancement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, trustees. The Division of Institutional Advancement has the following informational item. The Division of Institutional Advancement fundraising goal for FY23, as you know, was $12 million. As of June 2nd, 2023, the division has raised a total of $13,223,175. This amount reflects all non-research related private fundraising activity. And I think, as many of you know, the end of the fiscal year is this coming June 30th. Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions, I'll conclude the report.
I think there is a presentation from the Vice Chancellor of Institutional Advancement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Chancellor Akinlay, Board of Trustees members. I do not have a presentation, but I would like to update the numbers as of yesterday. We are at 15,151,803, 21% increase. 15,151,803.
I think we owe you an applause in your first year for knocking out the numbers.
Thank
you. Can you tell us the last time we had that? In other words, compared to 21.
In comparison to 21, we are a little bit ahead with 21. Last year, at this time, we were 15,034,512, and the year before that, 14,756,929. And looking back over the last 10 years, this is the most that we have raised in the last 10 years, and we have not finished. We have 2 more days left, and we have lots of gifts to process downstairs. So we expect this number to increase as well, hopefully closer to 16 million.
The chair would like to recognize Chairman Slade for a report.
Good morning. The athletic report will provide a few highlights that will include the following. Department of Athletics year-end updates, MEAC finishes, all conference student athletes and coaches, postseason competition, external relations update on campus, grants and community service, academic and compliance updates, and the fall 2023 athletic schedule. Are there any questions for our athletic director who will join us soon?
Morning. I don't see the presentation up there, but I know everyone has it. So if you have any related questions, I would definitely love to answer them, but I'll start by saying that, we had a tremendous year overall, and academically, once again, well above a 3.0 overall GPA. The cumulative GPA was a 3.11 for the year. And I think take a lot of pride in the fact that, we're not just in the wins-loss business, but, we did get a lot of PR, marketing, branding, excitement for a lot of the things our sports did this year. And I have to highlight a few of them. And I'm gonna have to start with some of our women's sports. We had we pushed everyone to be in the top half at all times. We want to win more than we lose, especially against mid-major institutions, because that's what we are. And last year, almost half of our women's sports did finish in the top, and we had our first time champion in school history as a Division I institution in our women's softball program. And I can't thank that coach enough for what she did. So she definitely deserves a round of applause, Coach Kat Tarvin. That was history in the making. That was an awesome run. And to go down to Georgia for the first round to see so many Eagles, Georgia's been good to us between the Celebration Bowl and that was a pretty good piece. So I was happy with those ladies. And on the men's side, we had an awesome year on the men's side. We had our highest finish overall in the MEAC. We finished third, only to Norfolk and Howard. They both won 4 championships. We won 2. South Carolina State won 2, and I think Delaware State won 1. So we had a really good year. Obviously, the Celebration Bowl, the MEAC championship, and then tennis snuck in there and wound up in the championship. Men's basketball had a great run too. They finished second overall. So we did a lot of winning. Yes, it was a lot of fun. And we have a whole lot of honors. There's no way I could even go through all of them, from men's basketball, women's tennis, track and field, softball. I'm talking about coach of the years, players of the year. We had so many academic honors. You can go through the PowerPoint and see there's just too many to list, which is actually a good thing to have. And then obviously our coach, football coach, was Trey Oliver, was the HBCU coach of the year, national championship. And I have to give a credit to 2 of his young men on the team. Both of those wound up being All-American. Mr. Baker and Davis Richards both finished up All-Americans at the FCF level. So we had so many different awards this year. It was awesome on the academic side, community-based, and on the respective playing field. And then postseason. For an institution of our size, we had 4 different programs that participated in NCAA postseason play. Obviously, the Celebration Bowl, when we kicked some butt, softball going down and playing University of Georgia and Boston University. We had 2 qualifiers for the NCAA first round outdoor track, and our men's tennis team was invited to the NIT championship for tennis in Atlanta, Georgia. So that just says a lot about how not only to be successful in our conference, but also across the board with many other institutions. We do have camps going on. We have several sports having camps and several that are having team camps. Football, volleyball, and tennis, they have team camps. Many local high schools have teams in the area, so they'll be on our campuses participating and obviously going through all the rigorous paperwork it takes to have those young folks on campus, the background checks and things like that. So General Counsel working very closely with her. We're doing things the right way. And I have to give a shameless shout out to my tennis coach, Curtis Lawson, who is still the coach at Central now. I'm looking at a picture now. He looks exactly the same as he did 30 years ago. Hey, Rock, it's exactly the same. I don't know what he's doing, but I have to give him a lot of credit for the work that he's did, Director of Tennis Operations, and especially receiving several grants this year from the USTA. He received 3 different ones. So very proud of the work he's done. And yeah, so if you get a chance, look at that picture. He looks exactly the same. I found the fountain of youth. Community service, shared that with you. We push our student athletes to be involved in this community. It's not just a recruiting tool, but it's giving back, paying it forward. And they did tremendous, from volunteer hours, internship hours, service learning hours, volunteering from W.G. Pearson, Shepherd Middle School, just all over the community. And I think our young people love seeing them come on campuses, speaking, talking about, what they want to do in life, and, just really showing our institution in a positive manner. Before I speak of what Kyle did with our external affairs, I have to take a quick moment to recognize our Deputy AD, Dr. Green. So the APR is coming back. That's the academic progress rate. And we had a meeting down in Orlando, me and the Chancellor, the other CEOs and presidents. And right now, we are the only institution in the MEAC that would not have academic penalties. We're the only ones, the only one. The only one. So if we were to have a basketball tournament next spring and the APR was applicable, we would only have half our teams participate. Half. So almost out of the 8 schools, every school has one sport that would have some form of penalties. And we were the only one. And Dr. Green made a presentation to the MEAC CEOs and presidents about what we're doing, best practices, information sharing, some things. We just have we have a robust staff, and we stay locked in with our coaches on a monthly basis. A lot of checks and minuses that we do to make sure everyone's on their page. So, but I had to recognize her for the work she did, and it really made Chancellor look good in that meeting too. That was a good list we were on. And then once again, the work that Kyle Serb has done. So it helps when you have good things to talk about. It definitely does. And we have a lot of student athletes, a lot of sports, and folks that are even doing stuff after college. So he does a great job of putting those things out. We rank 38th among all Division I institutions regarding media traction, and that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our social media has done well. Our NCCU athletic channel, we show so many different games. And I think what's also cool about that is we have a lot of students on campus in the communications department that help broadcast these games. And I think that's giving them experience, different classes they're getting credit for, and it's real live. And many of them are doing different things, from behind the camera, the operators, the play-by-play, the interviews, the color. So, we know we're getting our bang for our buck by there. And our website this year, just the clicks we're getting have been tremendous. And once again, that's attributed to our student athletes doing so much work in the community. And what I wanted to share also, during the Orlando meetings, they shared with us our net value by brand regarding the Celebration Bowl. And I think that's a big piece. We were only second to Cricket Wireless. So we had more than our good friends down there in Jackson. So we're about 6.6 million. And that's done by ESPN, the Celebration Bowl. So we really know that, $6 million for branding and marketing, as good as Mr. Fusi is. I don't know if you could have out-top that one down there, but that was a great experience. We got a lot of play on ABC and NBC, and the goal is to be back there. And the last page is the schedule for next year. So shortly, I would say beginning of next week, hopefully, we will have a package that will share not just tickets for the season, but also the specific games regarding the Circle City Classic and the UCLA. And I'll have to share with everybody. So just to break it down a little bit, the game in UCLA, it is a home game against UCLA, but it's at, it's at the Rose Bowl. So it's not a classic, it's not a bowl game, but it's at the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl controls all the ticket inventory. So we have begun working with our counterparts there, so we could put packages together if folks want suites and things like that. So we will be unleashing the UCLA and Mississippi Valley. And I had to give Institution of Advancement a great job. We do have some host hotels. We do have some travel partners. So we'll display all that together. We're just waiting on our ticket prices for UCLA. So any questions? I'd be willing to take any.
I just have a comment to make. I think going through your presentation, one of the things that I like to compliment you on, Dr. Perkins, is that the number of student athlete volunteers and the number of hours they put in, which is close to 10,000, and the other programs, because not just being an athlete, but holistic in growing people to be able to contribute back to their communities. And I think that's really special that we have that on behalf of athletics. So thank you very much. That's outstanding.
Thank you very much, sir. Bill, sir. Sir. Yeah, so we do have reserved parking, but we don't have specific spaces for the reserve section. It's a lot right behind the stadium, in between the Walker Complex. Nice size. We do have the capacity for that reserve lot. We don't have the manpower, I would say, time or energy to make sure every person in that lot got a specific spot. If you pay for that lot, you have a spot. No ifs, ands, buts about it. But if you would like us to mark or give you every spot, that's something that we probably could not manage. It takes we probably would need more people to manage that. It would probably cost us more than it's worth. So that's why the reserve lot, if you pay, you get a spot. If you choose to pull up at the game at 1 o'clock, then you're going to have probably the farthest spot from the good gate. But it is a very, very small lot. So, and it also has handicap spaces in there too. So, what should I say about that? Yes, sir. We've had several conversations about that, explained to that several times, and you know, it's not the answer that some want, but you know.
Dr. Perkins, let me respond to that question for Trustee Bell, and I thank you for bringing that up because, you know, folks would text board members about parking, things like that on campus. What I want to let you know, and that you can say to them when they get to you as a board member, is that you know the condition on our campus. We are landlocked. We can never produce enough parking for everyone that wants to come to a game. That's just a fact of life. And so in the limited reserve parking that we have, if you want to get parking, first come, first serve. And when it is done, it is done. As much as I would love to accommodate everyone when it comes to parking, NCCU is not alone. If you go to UNC, if you go to Duke, if you don't get parking on time, you find somewhere else to park. Parking is not, it's a privilege, but it's not a must. And you can walk around this campus and see how landlocked we are. We would love to build additional parking. We don't have the space, not the property acquisition to do it. So I do appreciate folks complaining about not getting parking. It is what it is. So if you would be kind enough to let them know that we understand wherever limited parking we have, get your parking on time. That's all we can say about that. And for those who do not have reserve parking, we apologize, but our campus is growing and there is no magic that we can pull out of that.
And Chancellor, let me just say, in this case, the individuals do have reserve parking. They would just like a specific spot in the reserve parking, which to monitor, manage, and have someone to check every spot would be next to impossible. Yes, sir.
We understand, and we understand, and we thank you for conveying it to us. But what I also would encourage the board, I mean, because the board is fully aware of our situation on campus, you are able to articulate those things to them. You have the permission to do so.
If I could ask one additional question, Vice Chancellor Hester, this is going to impact you as well. Congratulations on your success. Congratulations on doing it in a fashion that is a good representation of the university and the community. Dr. Hester just reported a $15.2 million total giving. What's the correlation between your success and the university's success in terms of fundraising?
I can't speak to the exact dollars, but we do know in December, going to the Celebration Bowl, there was a spike in institutional advancement. We know that for a fact. That like a month and a half span, all that coverage, we know it is connected. And I think that's what leads us to really be excited about jumping into the Maroon and Gray campaign, the annual giving campaign. You know, it's just going to allow us to seamlessly go into that and get started in the fall. So I couldn't say the exact number, but I can say it's been positive. But we've done very well with that. A lot of folks have, a lot of people that we wouldn't have normally gotten money for athletics, they've opened their checkbooks up. So it was a pretty good year for us too, fundraising.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a quick comment about the meeting, the MEAC meeting in Orlando, where all those reports were presented. And I think oftentimes we spend so much time on the winning of our student athletes on the field and, you know, gridiron and all of that, and don't spend enough time on their academic prowess. When the results was released to the CEOs, and one of my colleagues said to me, "Chancellor, you are the only institution that does not have any infraction at all." We are the only institution that was not listed under any infractions, and some of our institutions 2, 1, 3, and it was a problem for us, because what it says is that we're not only paying attention to the performance of our students on the field and all of that, we are also paying attention to their academic performance. And I think that deserves some sort of applause to our staff and Dr. Green, who works for Dr. Perkins, actually came to make a presentation to the chancellors and CEOs in terms of what we are doing that they can do. So we serve as a role model for them. And I think these are things that we don't often recognize. And I want to be sure that that is recognized here and Dr. Perkins as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much.
Are there any additional questions?
Last time you talked about restructuring and better aligning with the business department and advancement. Do you have any updates on that and how that's going to help you put together? I know you're putting together a strategic plan for fundraising for 24, right?
It is happening as we speak. I think we'll probably have a more, probably provide more information in the next board meeting, but everything that we said we wanted to do with the new staff, the alignment, restructuring, it's happening as we speak. Piece by piece. So I think we'll have a lot more to share in September, but it is our CFO, they're working with us very closely. So we are have a robust staff in those areas. So I'm excited about the fall.
Hearing no additional questions, I'll only add this. I hope we can make value correction. I hope we can maximize the value of the combination of academic excellence and social involvement with scoring well on the athletic field, because I think that's a winning combination, and we need to really get that word out, because it created tremendous pride in me, and I'm sure will others. And hearing no other questions, that concludes the report from athletics.
Thank you very much, Mr. Slade. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Slade. Next, I'd like to recognize Chairman Chadwell to report of Committee on Audit.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, today the Internal Audit Committee has a presentation in 3 parts. Presentation will prominently feature the internal audit work plan for fiscal year 2024. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Robert Gaines, Director of Internal Audit, for the presentation.
Morning, trustees, Chancellor. It's my pleasure to report on the 3 items that we have before you. The first one is the internal audit plan. What's important about the internal audit plan is on page 3. It lists the projects that we plan on pursuing during FY 24. The audit plan is always subject to change based upon additional requests from management and other conditions that do change it. The next report that's in your package is the audit committee charter. Each year we have to prepare this charter with any updates that are required and submit it to the Council of Internal Audit. This report is due in July 15th. The final report is the internal audit charter. The difference between the two is that the first one, the audit committee charter, outlines the responsibilities of the audit committee. The second one that I just mentioned, the internal audit charter, talks about the responsibilities of the internal audit staff. Again, all 3 of these documents are required on documents that must be submitted to the state. Any questions about any of those?
Your 2024 work plan, how did you decide which items were the carryover with the prior years or?
Very good question. What we did, there were some really strategic audits we didn't get to during FY 23. So those are the ones that we're initially starting with. If you look again on that page number 3, you see accounts payable, you see travel, you see a cash audit. I think the board had mentioned us doing a cash audit before, which we did do, but we put on our agenda again. So the majority of the items that we're presenting at this time are carryover items.
Are there additional questions? Trust.
Perhaps this is inferred by the audit committee in terms of duties and responsibilities between the audit staff and also the audit committee. But maybe it's inferred within the words, but I don't see anything that explicitly states reviewing kind of a holistically what's happening and providing guidance and oversight for best practices and making sure that things that occur frequently or across different departments, that there's not a broader issue, a systemic issue. So I don't see anywhere that explicitly says that you look at the university risk holistically to identify best practices and changes in procedures and policies that's necessary. Is that, like I said, that's probably inferred, but I think it would be good to have that explicitly called out in terms of overall risk management plan for the university.
Well, as part of the internal audit program, we prepare a risk assessment. Last 2 years ago, the board approved us doing a biennial plan. So we do a comprehensive risk assessment in the first year and then update it for the second year. So that was what was approved. We do tie our projects to presenting risk. We update those risks and review them to see whether or not those projects are still applicable. That's why very often we say that our audit plan is a living document because it's subject to change all the time. We've had a number of special projects this year that were not on our audit plan, but they arose and presented significant risks to the university. So we have been working on those and communicating those results with our senior management here at the university. So there is a risk. As a matter of fact, we're required by standards. We're required by standards to have a risk assessment program and process.
I'll only follow up by suggesting that the other two documents, in addition to the work plan, are intended by their statutory requirements to make that representation. Thank you for the observation. Committee can take that up for the level of explicitness that you represent. Are there additional questions? Mr. Chairman, recognizing none, that completes our report.
It's used just for a moment. At some point, these documents have to be approved.
All three.
All 30, yes. Okay, thank you.
Anything?
Be approved in this meeting.
Ask for actions on the items. Approval for the items. Okay, then we'll chair accept motions for approval of that. Can they be combined and approved? We'll accept motions accordingly.
It's been moved and properly second that the committee items be accepted. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposes, hearing none, so moved. Okay, as chair of the endowment committee, I do have a report. Trustees, the endowment report was provided for your review. Highlights include the following. For the period ended April 30, 2023, the university's endowment reflected a positive change in market value of 0.58%, which is 5/8 since July 1, 2022. This brings the total university endowment to 57.286 million from 56.953 million. The information also included benchmark performance for both Exponent's investment advisors and the UNC Investment Fund. Information was also provided for the NCCU Foundation endowment. For the period ended March 31, 2023, the foundation endowment reflected a positive change of 5.89% since July 1, 2022. This brings the total foundation endowment to 21.007 million from 19.315 million. In the last special call meeting, the endowment committee approved the recommendation to move the Exponent's investment to 40% SMID and 60% equity income. This situation will take place early next week, and Exponents will provide updated portfolios more frequently for the board to review. The fee for Exponents is currently 45 basis points. The university does not have the ability to negotiate the fee. The fee for UNC management is 35 basis points for accounts up to $50 million. It is an additional 20% on account balances over 50 million. The fee for UNC management is not negotiable. Are there any one second. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments for Vice Chancellor Matheson related to the endowment report? And we'll take questions at this time. Oh, let me repeat it so everyone can hear. And be sure to press your microphone. It's okay. You have to pull it around to.
Question is, why are the fees not negotiable?
So I need to correct, the fee is negotiable for exponents. The fee is not negotiable for UNC management, and per UNC management, they indicate that because they were created just to support the endowments for the UNC institutions, and they are not for profit, that their fees are quite competitive. And therefore, there's no conversation about changing those fees. Exponents, however, does allow us to negotiate fees, and we can do that as we see fit.
Well, I had specifically asked about negotiating the fees with the exponents, so I was a little surprised here that they're non-negotiable. In terms of UNC management, do you know if they charge us the same fees as all the other clients, or do they reveal that information?
So UNC management charges 35 basis points for accounts that are up to 50 million.
Okay.
And anything above 50 million, it is an additional 20% on that amount above 50 million, in addition to the 35. But exponents does allow us to negotiate.
So what's the next step if we want to negotiate the fees with exponents?
Yes, sir.
I said, what's the next step? How do we begin the negotiation?
We just have to call a meeting with exponents and begin the review process.
All right, thank you.
My question is, when you look at the market with negotiated fees in this price range of what we have invested with exponents, do we have any idea of what that would look like for that amount of money? To understand whether we're in the ballpark or outside of it.
So we're actually doing our research right now. So we've started with exponents. We looked at UNC management. We're going to look at some other firms to see what it looks like before we go into conversations with exponents.
Okay,
Let me say, my suggestion, or my question is not that I say we overpaid or we overcharged. I like to know what it is.
Absolutely.
I like to know what the basis is, and I like to know what the history has been in terms of the fees.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question as well. As I reviewed this document in advance, private equity seemed to take a real bath. I know the purpose behind private equity, but can you give me a little bit more insight on how we have on a $3.2 million account, 15.8% loss in 1 year?
So I would have to bring exponents back to go over, they went over that information at the last board meeting. I'm happy to have them come back and address it. But we do have the opportunity to make adjustments as we see fit. That is what they let us know at the last board meeting. And so if we want to start managing this quarterly, we can do that.
That was not my intent. I just want to try to get
And
some
I'm not
insight
able.
into how it took such a significant drop when the rest of the market went up. And I know private equity tends to, their whole game plan is to make significant bets, and clearly they bet wrong. And I'm just curious as to what we might do to avoid that happening again, if possible. And I'm not saying that it is.
So Trustee Slade, with the increasing interest rates, there's less cash in the market. And private equity depends on the largesse of those who are willing to put cash toward these big bets. So that could be one of the issues as well, overall. And this depends on which types of private equity entities we had in our portfolio. The other thing I wanted to ask about, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Our endowment, that's the foundation endowment, that's 21 million. Would be helpful to see across the board HBCU endowments. I think the one listed online most recently, our sister institution, Fayetteville State, has a $31 million endowment. So would be good to see in our strategic plan going forward, what the plan is to, get our endowment up to a number that could at least fall in the top 20. I don't think it'll be top 10. The 10th largest is 69 million at Virginia State. But what's the plan for that? Because I know we're leveraging the foundation, because they're separate, it's the foundation and
That's
the
right.
others. Yeah.
And I think we need to put this into context because you have three plans there. You have the foundation, you have the UNC, and you have exponents. So if you look at the total that we have with the foundation now, which is in excess of 21 million, what we have with UNC, which is
46 million.
46 million, and the total that we have with exponents is 10 million. So when you look at all of the endowment of the university combined, is in excess of $69 million. But these are separate. Yeah, right.
Would love to get that in the 3-figure mark, right? And so is there a plan? I know we wanted to do the capital campaign. but
Right.
In the interim,
Right.
what, it'd be great just to hear if there's
Yes.
anything. going
I
forward.
think that if you actually, to be frank with you, if you look at our overall endowment within the scope of HBCUs, we're not doing badly at all. And if you look at the alumni given that is just been presented, the average for HBCUs, Ms. Esther, is what I can't remember that number. The average given in the year for HBCUs. Right. Oh, right. Exactly. So when we look at that, and to your question, Trustee Dickens, we've seen some significant improvement in the number of alumni given. I think what we have to do is really work a bit more, because when you look at the total given, it was just from 5,000 alum. Okay. And we have in excess of 40,000 alum, or maybe 37,000 alum. So it appears that we need to do more outreach, and Ms. Hester is already working on that. If all of that total given, at least a sizable percentage of that is from only 5,000 alum, and the rest of them are from other sources, I think we still have some more headroom that we can do to really encourage alumni to do a bit more. And then, of course, on the other side of the corporate and foundation and all that, we're actually doing better in those areas. So the Capital Comprehensive Campaign, that's why we're working on it very hard now, because that's also going to make a portion of that. And as you well know, we are in the phase 2 of that now. Actually, it looked very promising because we met with our consultant, and we'll have a report for you all in September where we are with phase 2 of that plan. So yeah, we had to do a number of things to, but when I review that, considering where most of our HBCUs are, we are doing very well.
Chancellor, the last thing I'll say is you just did a great job of telling the story. I think in the board materials, that's the type of data that's helpful, because then we take that with us and we can tell the story, right?
If there aren't additional questions, that concludes the endowment report. Thank you. In the absence of Chairman Johnson, I'd like to give the report for the Committee on Finance and Facilities. Trustees, Finance and Facilities has several informational items and one action item. The third quarter budget update was provided. Highlights include the following. Based on year-to-date expenditures, the university expects to carry forward $2.3 million in the general fund, which will be used to support capital projects and other operational needs in the next fiscal year. In the auxiliary units, operating results include a positive $300,000 to the overall fund balance, excluding athletics. Funding support was used to repair and renovate spaces in various residence halls and equipment in Pearson Dining Hall. In athletics, Operating results include a net $600,000 to the fund balance. The fund balance remains negative, and athletics and administration and finance will continue to make progress on the existing fund balance. The university was able to expend and encumber her funding by the federal deadline. Next, information was provided on facilities projects. Updates include the following. The School of Business building is forecast for certificate of occupancy in late July. This will be followed by FF&E installation. The owner move in is now forecast for mid-August 2023. The project is currently 89% complete. The athletic field turf project continues to progress. The site survey was completed in April. The drainage infrastructure component is scheduled for completion in August, prior to the first home game. The drainage project encompasses the perimeter of the field. The actual turf replacement will start after the last home game and be completed by late December 2023. The Baines Hall residence demolition work continues. Completion is expected by late September. Following the authorization increase in funding for the 24/7 Collaborative Learning and Research Center, the latest bid opening occurred on June 6, 2023. All bids received are below the estimated cost of construction. The designer is verifying the scope and starting negotiations. The renovations to NCCU radio are projected for completion in May 2024. Beneficial occupancy is forecast for July 2024. Other new capital projects on the horizon include the Lee Biology Building and the Taylor Education Building. Next, we have a presentation of the Administration and Finance Strategic Plan by Vice Chancellor Matherson. I ask that Vice Chancellor Matherson present the strategic plan for information at this time.
Good morning. Okay. All right. So thank you for allowing me to speak to you for just a few minutes on the Administration and Finance Strategic Plan. I want to start with a little context and history. Administration and Finance has not had, Administration and Finance has not had a strategic plan in over 20 years. And so while the university has continued to have strategic plans, the Division of Administration and Finance actually has not. We have certainly been working diligently right alongside the university and every other division and getting things done, but it does underscore some of the challenges that we have had over the last few years that we're working to remedy, because there's not been a kind of a strategic point of departure in getting work done. So very excited that we have been able to put something together and identify a mission, vision, and core values that we will operate from. So there are 4 goals that came out of the strategic plan: service excellence and customer care, responsible and resource stewardship, infrastructure and campus facilities enhancements, community engagement, and enterprise programming. And so we're creating a roadmap that ensures the current and future success, keeping an eye on innovation and productivity and efficiency, and a plan for our campus expansion and economic development in the middle of an urban center. We can't say enough about where we're located. We know Durham is in the middle of doing some great things. The Research Triangle Park area is doing some great things. We are well positioned to take advantage of that if we leverage what we have here at NCCU and put together a comprehensive plan that we can bring to the table when Durham and others are having their discussions. And so some of the core values that we identified are listed here, as well as our mission and our vision. And I would like to make this succinct, so it's all here. I'm happy to answer questions at a later date. The stakeholders, I think this is really important in terms of who made up the planning committee. It was a diverse and interdisciplinary planning committee. We wanted feedback from both internal and external constituents. We wanted to develop good and collaborative goals and measurable objectives. And so we talked to faculty, we talked to recent graduates, the staff, alumni, vendors, which is very important. We talked to vendors and community residents. We actually went around this community to talk about some of the things that we are doing, that we have done, perceptions, what folks would like to see, although we are clear, we cannot do everything that the community would like to see the university do, because it sometimes doesn't align, but you at least need to make sure that you are aware so that everybody is moving along the same page. So just the key points for some of our goals and objectives: implementing a training module that facilitates an environment conducive to effective and efficient customer care. That's something that rang out in many of the stakeholder conversations, was just making sure that there was not only good customer service, but care of the customer and how we're doing business. Conduct biannual satisfaction surveys to both internal and external customers. Utilize that survey and assessment data to improve our services. And goal 2, responsible and resource stewardship. Implement an annual university-wide zero-based budgeting process. We've already begun that. We're in year 2. We will continue to refine and make that better. Conduct an annual review of internal controls and compliance. We know that that is something that we need to continue to focus on, and we need to make that a part of everything that we're doing. And we need to do it in advance of also working with Mr. Gaines in internal audit. Implement strategies for new and existing auxiliary enterprises to increase revenue and net income. We have to be able to grow the revenue that is supporting the university in ways that are beyond receiving appropriations from the state and increasing tuition and fees. And so we're looking to be very creative in doing that. That is where the engagement with the community and the city and municipalities around us becomes very important. Goal 3, infrastructure and campus facilities enhancements. We need to establish a comprehensive funding model that supports the maintenance and repair of all shared and common areas of our campus. We need a committee to biannually review the campus master plan. The campus master plan can't sit on the shelf. We have to make sure that we activate the campus master plan and get it done to respond to the factors that are, impact our campus growth. Also, an annual review of division policies, procedures, and operational practices. And I want to finish letting this go through so that you can see kind of this visual of our campus and the growth that we've had. I think it's gone through the whole, well, just want you to see this great view of the campus. And Chancellor, you're free to use this later. Goal 4, in community engagement and enterprise programming. Partner with the city of Durham to develop a plan to explore retail opportunities along Fayetteville Street. I'm happy to announce that I work very closely with Trustee Chadwell in his regular role to see how we develop this Fayetteville corridor that supports the city of Durham, but also impacts North Carolina Central University. And we will continue that work. And develop the comprehensive roadmap to leverage our Millennial Campus. We have the Millennial Campus designation. We've done our first P3. What else are we going to do? We have to activate this area in support of North Carolina Central University. So our next steps, working to build a budget to actualize this plan. Important that all members of administration and finance embrace the plan. So we're going on our road tour on campus. I'll be doing parking lot meetings with some areas because I need to meet our staff where they are to make sure that they understand and are connected to the vision. All of administration and finance is in this plan. And so I need everyone from the young man we talked to this morning that was watering the plants outside to everyone in finance. Everybody is connected to the plan. Prioritize the strategies and achieve the goals and assign accountability and track the progress. It doesn't make any sense if we're not tracking the progress, measurable goals, and bring that back to you and everyone else. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Some of this is a comment and then a question. I believe, based on the discussions we've had around your organization, that you're probably very taxed as it is right now. And so the other thing is that in corporations, when they embark upon something this intensive, they basically say if it can't get done within 6 months, it's not likely to get done because you need immediate impact. And they went to a place where they had what they referred to as black belts, people who specialized in processes, because it sounds like you're going to have to go through that to make sure you can be the most efficient you can be, plus deliver exemplary, performance. But what's your time frame to get this done? And then, because the hours you're putting into it with people who are already on, overload, and what resources do you think you might need to accelerate this type of change? Because I think it's critical to the success, and I applaud you for now having something on paper to work with.
So thank you for that question. So we've actually got a fairly tight timeline when you talk about strategic plans. This one is from 23 through 26. And so one of the reasons is because the university's latest strategic plan ends in 26. So we need to be very impactful. So your question is well placed. The reason we have 4 goals is because we feel like those are achievable versus coming up with 10 or 12 in a very short time. I will say that quite a bit of work is already going on, but to your point, we need to make sure it's on paper so that we can track it and so that everyone can see it at all times. But we will continue to work very closely with our Associate Vice Chancellor for Strategic Planning, Mr. Johnny Sutherland, who works with all the divisions on campus in terms of actualizing plans. And that's part of our next steps, is kind of developing the timeline of what of this plan is going to happen in 6 months, what's happening in the year, and then also putting a budget towards that. What else are we going to need that we don't have today in that budget? If there are needs where we need some type of temporary consulting or contractual service to help us actualize it, that's what we're going to be developing.
Are there additional questions for Vice Chancellor Matherson?
I'd just love for the trustees at some point to be listed as stakeholders because of our fiduciary duty and how close it aligns. But other than that, I love that you decided to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Finally, we have an action item related to an authorization increase for the new School of Business project. I ask that Vice Chancellor Matherson present the authorization increase to the board for action.
So you have before you information related to the School of Business. We are coming down to the end of the wire. However, because of the supply chain disruptions, how late everything has gone, the continued costs that have increased related to the project, and just some things that have come up through change orders, we do find ourselves with an additional need of about $500,000. We've identified those funds. You heard in the budget report earlier that part of our carry forward would be used to support capital projects and other operational. So we're going to use 500, that we're requesting to use 500,000 of the carry forward to support the new School of Business construction to bring that out to the finish line. And so you have that request in front of you. You also can see a list of some of the items that have come up as additional needs. So I'm happy to answer any questions prior to seeking approval.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Are there additional questions? Hearing none. We have a motion on the floor. Has it been second? It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report, trustees. There are not any items for the Committee on Governance. Oh, you do have something? Oh, quick announcement.
I will be brief. Just wanted to remind all trustees that the Governance Committee will be meeting no later than 20 days prior to the September meeting regarding the slate of officers. So if you have names you would like to submit for possible presentation for the September meeting, please get that information to me in a timely manner, as we will be presenting it, like I said, at least 20 days prior to the meeting. Of course, on the 27th of September, nominations can be taken from the floor, but we can get it in advance. That would make it much better for us. Just want to make that quick announcement.
This has to include any new appointees, right? So when will we have the list of new appointees?
So that just been looking at that. Of course, it's budget time, and this is hopefully will be within I'm going to say within 30 days, but I mean it's budget time. So
Question is, when would you have the list of all of the new appointees? The Board of Governors have already done theirs, and we have those. We're still waiting for the legislative branch. And we've been told that perhaps that would come after the budget process. And we're hoping that we would have those before our first meeting in September. I'm sure we will. And because that first meeting is when the new board's members will be sworn in. So I have not called to check lately because it's a budget time, and but I'm sure, I'm confident that we would get appointments before our next meeting. Yeah.
I did check. And they have a bill drafted, and it's going to be filed when they're ready to adjourn. So, which I'm told they hope to do in July.
That's my thought as well. Time enough for the September meeting. September 27. Yes, sir.
We're also going to have a tentative date where we have board training.
In September, we will be talking to, I'll be talking to the chairman, and we need to have the new members sworn in before we go to orientation. So it will be after our September, it's going to be right after the first meeting to give everyone we can't have orientation before swearing in. Right. And so we would be considerate of your time. In fact, I discussed that yesterday with the chief of staff that maybe there's a way that we can arrange that to be close to the September meeting so that perhaps maybe you can come in a day early or a day after the meeting so that you won't have to make 2 trips in September. But we'll try to figure it out, and I'll discuss that with the chairman. Okay. Well, we want to be considerate of your travel time and not have you 2 different times coming in.
Okay, that concludes our report for the Governance Committee. As chairman for the Executive Personnel Committee, I do have a report. Trustees, the Executive Personnel Committee has one action item. Petition for political activity submitted by Dr. Monique Holsey Hyman. I've asked Chancellor Akinleye to present the information for action of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have directed Associate Legal Counsel to come up and give you a brief presentation on the action item before you vote.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good morning, trustees. I am here to address the political activity item pursuant to UNC Policy and Code Section 300.5.2, as well as Section 300.5.1, which applies to campus employees that are exempt from the State Human Resources Act and requires that petitions be submitted to the university for review before becoming a candidate for or accepting an elective or a point of office. And pursuant to Campus Policy 01.04.1, which is our political activities policy, you have been provided with materials regarding the political activity of Dr. Monique Holsey Hyman. She is a professor in the graduate program in the Department of Social Work here at the university and is currently a member of the Durham City Council. She was appointed to fill a vacant at-large seat in May of 2022. Her current term of office ends in December of this year, and she's running for election to that same seat now. According to her petition, she's applying for a part-time major elected office and is not requesting any leave. The materials that you have received include a letter of support from Dr. Creighton, the chair of the social work program, to demonstrate that there's already been an assessment of any potential interference or impact on Dr. Holsey Hyman's ability to fulfill her instructional or other obligations to the university, her academic unit, etc. Our office has reviewed the petition for completeness and submitted it to the Chancellor for consideration. It is now being presented to you for review and approval.
Excellent. Mr. Chairman, you've heard the presentation and I would present it to the board for consideration and approval.
Mr. Chairman, because of my position with City of Durham, I'd like to recuse myself from the action.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from other board members?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, move for approval on this action item.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Opposes? Hearing none? So passed.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break, prior to the Chancellor's presentation. Please be back appropriately. Thank you. Would you like? Uh, Trustees, I'd like to reconvene our meeting, and on the podium is our Chancellor to give us an update.
Making sure that trustee Walker is here. Well, yes, good morning. I had my note prepared to say either good morning or good afternoon, depending on where we are at a time, so we are still in the good morning phase. So thank you. Good morning to you, Mr. Chairman, to our board members, and to all of our staff and faculty and others present. It's my pleasure to provide a quick update. I want to just let the board know that I want to depart slightly from my usual report to the board. Normally, I would provide several updates in terms of activities and things like that, most of which, in many cases, are already part of your committee reports. And so rather than do that, I want to begin to take some time to look at some policy matters, other things that we are doing or that we are mandated to do to move the institution forward that you may not be privy to all the time. And so today I want to shift a little bit to that and share with you a strategic priority of the UNC system as well as NCCU that we're going to be looking at on a yearly basis. And I want you to be familiar with that so that if conversation should come up in terms of how and what are those priorities that relate to moving the institution forward, that you can address those and also partner with us in terms of looking for the resources to do that. But before I get into that presentation, I want to also let you know that one of our key alumni member of the NCCU Foundation, Mr. Floyd Benjamin, I don't know if you know him, passed away. And he lived in California, a very key member of the institution. We got information officially yesterday, and I want you to keep his wife in your prayers, in our prayers, and we will be forwarding some condolences information to the family. I also know that you are aware of the passing of the mother of Trustee Elena Tidwell. The funeral services occurred, I believe, the week before. Chairman was in attendance, and we want you to also keep her in your prayers. So then I'm going to move into this presentation so I can move through it quickly. And at the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take your questions. We'll go to slide number 1. What I want to share with you this morning, again, is something that I think is key to what we are doing at NCCU, what we are required to do as far as the performance metrics for our institution is concerned. Many of you know that there is a strategic plan from the USA system that is referred to as the higher expectations. The strategic plan for UNC 2022 to 2027. I will advise, if you have not seen it, it's on the UNC webpage. I'll ask you to, at your leisure time, if you want to take a look at it, please do so. All of our constituent institutions are required to develop our own strategic plan to be in sync with that. And I'm happy to tell you that at NCCU, we have done that. Over the years, this was started under Margaret Spelling, and now President Peter Hans. This is our strategic plan, NCCU, charting a new landscape for student-centered success, 2019 to 2024. Once you review that, you will see that our strategies, objectives are pretty much aligned with what the UNC is looking at for the state. But it's also important for you to understand that there are some performance measures now that our institutions have to deal with that are tied to funding. Strictly, we used to have enrollment growth funding, but now we have metrics that all of our institutions have to fulfill to be sure that we are fulfilling the mission, the UNC, the state, and our own mission as an individual constituent institution. And so on my right, the summary there, which says UNC strategic plan, you see the summary, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals that the UNC system has actually set as part of its strategic plan. Access is one of those. And what this is referring to is really college attainment, increasing access for underserved population, improving pathways for transfer and non-traditional students between age 25, 44, and providing academic, financial, and cultural support from students from all walks of life. Access is very important. This is also tied to hours. If you look at ours, you will also see that that is part of our goals. Number 2, the student success. It includes the development of competencies such as critical and creative thinking, lifelong learning, flexibility, collaboration, and many others, as well as timely completion of a degree. Number 3, affordability and efficiency, making college education and attainment affordable and improving efficiency. As you well know, this is something that the UNC and the state has made a priority, making sure that college for North Carolina residents is affordable and achievable for all North Carolina residents. And we are doing the same thing here, and making sure that our students can receive higher education without regards for the cost or for the ability to pay. And lastly, and of course, the economic impact and community engagement. Enhancing economic impact and community engagement by preparing graduates to be well-rounded citizens, lifelong learners, improving the quality of life, investing in research, speeding discovery, application, translational research, strengthening local communities and the state's economy. That is what that is designed to achieve, economic impact and community engagement. And I will have you know that NCCU is heavily engaged in that. We have a study of our economic impact, which is available on our website that you can look at and see what we are contributing to this region and to the state. And of course, lastly, on the UNC is the excellent and diverse institutions. And I think you all know that within the UNC constituent institutions 17, we have varied missions, but there is an encouragement from the UNC that considerations would be given to our collective priority as well as our individual priority as an institution. What makes us unique as a UNC system, what also makes us unique as each institution. We want to make sure that we are focused on this and that our system will continue to be diverse and to be vibrant. That is that summary. And then, of course, the UNC developed what is referred to as the performance metrics, by which we are judged every year. It's a 5-year metric. On the right here, you see what has been assigned to all of our institutions. We used to have a 5-year graduation goal on that the previous 9 metrics, but it's now been moved to 4-year graduation. So our goal is to make sure that all of our students can finish in 4 years. And then, of course, you have the undergraduate degree efficiency, which I will talk about briefly in a minute. Average cumulative debt for first-year students, average cumulative debt for transfer students, education and related expenses by degree. Then, of course, the sixth one is one we chose ourselves. They gave us 5 and allow us to choose one that we would love to embrace. And we embraced the military enrollment. And so if you go to the next slide now, and I can dive quickly into each one of them. And the goal here is really to show you what we are doing in these areas to be able to meet this particular metric and to be able to do well with it. Here, we need to identify and address institutional barriers to students completing degree requirements in 4 years. As you well know, there are so many reasons why students are not able to finish in 4 years, particularly when you talk about minority students. Economic, where they come from, the family income, working, all of those things contribute to most of our students not being able to finish in 4 years. But if you can provide certain things for them, what I refer to as creative transformative change in the areas of advising, academic support, and financial wellness support, they are able to finish in 5 years. And you will see what our baseline is in 2020, what our actual is in 2022, the change, our threshold, that is our target, and the stretch is if we can even do better than our target, that would be our stretch. These are the things that we are looking at, and we have a committee now that is monitoring all of that. We have a way to track all these students, first generation students. We have a way to track them. We have a way to track students from rural areas so that we can look at their specific needs. We also have, what we call a concern for multi-generational students. That is, non-traditional students are in that mix. We cannot give we can't require older students to do the same things that we would require freshman students to. And so we have to look at their needs separately. And so right here, you see right there, our baseline, our actual at the end of the year, we'll look at that data. Dr. Sarah Carrigan on our campus is looking at all of that. And we'll be able to measure what we're doing, what the change is, and what we need to do to continue to improve in that area. Then, of course, undergraduate degree efficiency. And this is really taking a holistic approach to ensure that the number of students who graduate in a timely manner increases. As I mentioned, it's almost tied to 4-year graduation. And this is strictly saying out of 100 FTE students, that is 100 full-time students, how many of them are we graduating on a yearly basis? The goal here is for us to be able to do, our baseline is 19, which is not bad. And you see the actual there, threshold, that's our target, and that's our stretch. Our stretch is you can go beyond your target. What would you like to see? Again, if you look at the right side, you'll see what we're doing. Upper division academic advising initiative for juniors and seniors, standardized academic advising systems and protocol across the campus. I've charged the provost to institute an academic advising system that is able to track and make sure that students are on time for graduation. They can go to summer school. If they are working, we need to be sure that they don't work more than 20 hours a week if it is possible. And then we also have provided funding from Title III to provide what we refer to as special academic advisors for the students. You would know that students, freshman students who come into the university, come in under what we refer to as the university college. That's the first and second year experience. They are catered to that. But we lose more students once they get to be junior and seniors. And so now what we wanted to do is pay particular attention to those students as well by hiring, special advisors to do that. Next slide. Now, the average cumulative debt for first year students, graduate students, in a timely manner with as little debt as possible. This is the goal of North Carolina. You all know the things that have been done. You have the NC Promise schools, which cuts tuition to 500. You also know that here at NCCU, we have the Chittim White, which is funded by the state, which provides full ride for students. I think what we need to do to make sure that we can do this is some of the things that we put on the right-hand side here. Assign institutional advancement staff to work directly with academic days to secure private funding and partnership to develop student scholarship. Scholarship is key to this. We don't want our students to graduate with heavy debt. We're gonna have to do better in really providing scholarships for them. And you ask how you can be involved, how you can help. We talk about endowments, things like that. But in order for us to be able to maintain these metrics that are here, see our baseline there, we are doing phenomenal in this area. Our baseline is 31,000, actual 23,000, a change of $26,000. Why were we able to do this? Remember, we got the HERF funding. Last year, year before, we paid for summer school for all students. And that was able to help to reduce their debt. But HERF funding is gone now. And so we're gonna have to find ways by which we can help these students. And we've talked about this a lot. A lot of our students are, even though they are on Pell, but they still have unmet needs in terms of transportation, housing, and other things that they need. These are the things that could push them to take more debt than they need. And so if we're going to be able to do well, continue to do well under this metric, we're gonna have to find ways to support our students financially. And so scholarship is key for us. We can't say this enough. You also know that many of our students are coming from low-income homes, rural areas, first generation. They need supplemental instructions, tutoring, advice, coaching, and all of that. This requires for us to have additional resources to provide us. Some of those things we don't get from the state, and we have to provide them in order for us to continue to do well. But this is one area where we've done extremely well, and we hope to continue to do so. Next slide, please. So the same thing for transfer students. Transfer students who are coming to us, transfer students are somewhat slightly more, what do I say? They are probably more informed. They've spent 2 years in other schools. They know a lot of things that we don't, first-time freshman students do not know. Their study habit is better, graduation rate is better, but they also need a support because most of them are coming from the same economic background that many of our first-time freshman students are coming from. If you look at the metric below there, you'll see that we've also done very well in this area, but for the same reason, where we've been able to reduce from 22,000 to 15,000 in 2022. Again, credit is due to all of the work that has been done here to provide scholarship for our students through the foundation, through departments and colleges. We're able to do that, thereby helping them to reduce the debt accumulation. Next slide. Education and related expenses. This is where I was referring to earlier when I said there are other expenses that may not figure directly into the cost of instructions, okay? But nevertheless, these are things that can drive students to take loans, to start working full-time jobs, because they have other things that they need to do. And there are several examples here that we can actually provide. I cannot go anywhere in this city, in a restaurant without running into some of our students working in the restaurants, and not because they want to, because they need to. So related educational expenses are areas where we need to pay attention. And on the right-hand side, you see some of the things that we've done. Raise more scholarship dollars to deter students from deciding to work more than part-time hours. We've hired newly upper division advisors to help our students. And then of course we engage in financial literacy through financial aid office to give them training, their parents training, making sure they don't take any more money than they need. So if you look at this area, you also see that we have some work to do here. The baseline is $78,000. The actual in 2022 is 82. So there's a 4% change here. So it seems like we need more work here to help students, with related, academic expenses. Some of them, not just first-time freshman students, even law students. Some of our law students are needing, support. They have housing to pay. And when it comes to time for them to prepare for the bar, they'll say, well, we don't have the money to pay for the bar. These are things where we can really assist them and help them to come up with monies to do so. Next slide, please. Now, this is a metric that we've chosen for ourselves, the military enrollment, because of the place that North Carolina occupies in terms of military presence. We have so many bases in North Carolina here, Camp Lejeune, Fort Bragg, all of that. So it would behoove us to really have targeted approach to be able to bring in more veterans and military students who are needing degrees. Most of them are non-traditional students, as you well know. Is an area where we've done very well. Our online platform was designed to accommodate that. And I think I'm able to say to you that amongst all the HBCUs within our system, we are #1 in the online platform. This is not what I'm saying. This is what the system says. We will be announcing to you all very soon through the Kitty Hawk project. NCCU has been chosen as the first institution to partner with Kitty Hawks to expand our RN to BSN program online. And this is going to scale the program, it's going to increase our enrollment, it's going to extend our reach to non-traditional students. And if you look at the baseline here, you'll see that our baseline in 2021 is 482 veteran students. We passed our threshold. We even, our stretch is 548, 10.6% increase in 1 year. So we're still gonna work even harder to do that. Been talking to the provost. We need to establish better contact with Fort Bragg. We need to have a presence there. Camp Lejeune needs to have a presence there so that we can recruit and get these students in. Next slide. So if you are wondering sometimes that what are we doing to really move our mission forward? And how are we embracing those performance metrics that determine how we get funded? Those are the things that we're doing. And these things are not happening by accident. We have a committee that is tracking all these students who have varied needs across the campus. The needs of a first-time generation student is different from a student who is not a first-generation student. A student who's coming from a rural area is different from a student who's first-time students, different from non-traditional students. And we have to be able to provide and cater to each of these categories. But we need resources to do that. So I present to you here today to understand when we say we have performance metrics that are being used yearly to determine how much money we get, all of that. They have a formula. I can't give you that formula here because it's slightly complicated. But this is one of the things that we're doing. And if you are out there and people are asking you, how do you determine your success as an institution? These are some of the metrics that you can point to that indicate how successful we are when we as we meet our mission and our goals. So if you have any questions, I'll take a question. But before that, I want to make a quick announcement to you. Miss Leah Krause, who was worked with us here for a number of years as our CIO, recently decided to retire After 26 years of work, she is retiring as of June 30th. And we have appointed Ms. Patrice Walker to serve as interim as we embark upon selected a new CIO. We've already begun that effort, and we are very encouraged with the number of applicants that we have, very good applicants. They know that we should be able to do that very soon. But in her absence, I want to let you know that Ms. Krause is leaving a footprint here at NCCU. She's helped to move NCCU forward in a number of areas. We had a farewell stuff for her last week, in which we highlighted all of the work and contributions that she made to NCCU. But I do want you to know that. So with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. If there are any questions that I can help to answer on the presentation or other things that you may have on your mind, I am pleased to do so.
So Board of Trustees, the floor is open for questions.
Thank you for sharing those metrics and making great progress. I have a question
Sure.
regarding the transfer students. It looks like you're doing very well there. Could you give just an overview of what the makeup of the transfer students in-state versus out-of-state, community college versus four-year,
Yeah.
traditional, non-traditional? What is the makeup of the transfers?
Actually, you've just described the makeup. It consists of all of those type of students that you describe. Primarily transfer students from community colleges, both in-state and out-of-state. We have articulation with almost all of the community colleges in the state, where we get students who transfer in after completing their AA. We also have transfer students who are coming from other institutions who are transferring to our institution. In other words, they may have started school at Winston-Salem or some other schools out of state, and they transfer to us to complete. They are considered transfer students if they have X number of hours. And they're coming from every state, from every county in the state, and many of them are non-traditional students. They are between ages of 25 plus. And they take a mixture of classes, in many cases, distance education, face-to-face classes. We've done very well with them. We need to increase that, and we have had articulations. We were just at Pitt Community College. We have transfer agreements with Alamance Community College, Wake Tech, Durham Tech, Vance Granville. I can go on and on. But they still have certain needs if they are going to be able to do well, as we've described under those metrics. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Target 19.7, current at 18.95, threshold at 20.01.
Right.
What's the solution there? That's still extremely low. I mean, it's not even 50% graduation rates with all the resources we're pouring in. What are you thinking long
Well,
term?
let me just put that in context. If you look at the UNC, you would notice that the very first set of metrics that come out was a 5-year graduation rate. When you look at the 5-year graduation rate, we're doing very well. 4-year graduation rate is a bit more challenging for us for all of the reasons that we've given earlier. And that is one of the reasons why this is one of our metrics. But in order for us to be able to achieve a much higher, and we're not doing badly because we look at national average for our type of institutions, we're still doing well, but we have a lot more work to do in that area. The first thing I would say is, it's not because they are not being retained. That's not, in fact, our retention rate from first to second year is very high. We are in the 80 percentile right now. Where we have some more work to do will be in the third and the fourth year. You know, that's where we begin to see some attrition. But because of all of the attention that we give to them in the first, second year, we have advisors, we have all. We usually have very good, and Dr. Jackson, what do you think our first year, second year retention is now? I think it was like 82. So it's roughly 82%, which is much, much higher than a lot of schools. But to answer your question, what can we do to increase that? We have a lot of work to do. We need to do more with our advising to make sure that students do not go into careers that they are not ready for. I'll give you an example. A lot of students will come in, they want to be a nurse because somebody in the family is a nurse. They want to be a medical doctor, they want to go into pre-med. They may not have the aptitude for that when you look at their grade. And so we have to do a better advisement in terms of career advisement as well and say, hey, you may not have the grade to be a nurse. You look at your grade in this biomedical this and that. There are other professions in the area of medicine that you can still go into. There is public health. So we need to align our academic advisement with our career advisement so that those students do not go into this discipline, waste all of their time and not be admitted to the program. And then they have to start all over again. We're doing a lot of work in that area. So that's number one. Number two, it goes back to what I suggested to you earlier in terms of their need, not just, the cost of tuition, but educational related expenses. They always have a need to want to work. And when they're working, they can't take more than 15 hours. If you take 15 hours every semester, you're going to take 5 years to graduate. If you're going to graduate in 4 years, you've got to do more than 15 hours per semester. And you've got to go to some summer school. If you don't do that, you cannot finish in 4 years. You can do the math. And so we want to encourage them to do more summer school. Her funding helped us to pay for summer school. We've encouraged the UNC system to include summer school in appropriation so that they can receive, state funding for summer school. If they do 1, 2, 3 summer school, they graduate faster than it would have taken. And then of course, scholarships. I don't know how to even describe that. It's key for them. They'll tell you that they have to work. In many cases, as you well know, some of them work to help people at home, not just for their own needs. So the key question here is that it's a combination of things that we have to be able to do. Academic instructions, tutoring, making sure that, we let them know that if you're going to finish, you got to take more than 15 hours. You got to pass all those courses, study habits. All of those things are really, really important. We're going to see a major improvement. And we're already doing that. We just finishing hiring 10 new additional advisors who we want them to just track these students that are at risk. And when I say at risk students, students who are coming for the first time in their family to come to school, they need special advisement, not just the type that you give to other students. Why is it important for you to do this and do that? So we have work to do in that area. But for 5 years, we're doing very well. We're in the 55% plus.
Okay, Trustee Slade.
Early on, you said funding is tied to metrics.
Yes.
So I have 3 metrics-based questions. One involved the amount of accumulated debt a student has first and second year.
Mhm.
Having had 2 kids through college, the key to not accumulating debt is having parents pay for it. We're also charged with the responsibility to recruit first-generation students, rural students.
Absolutely.
It seems to me those 2 things are completely opposing one another. and it's a recipe for disaster. So if you go back to the funding metric, it seems that we have an extra obstacle in front of us. And I have two other questions, but I'll let you respond to that.
Thank you very much. That's a very good observation. And I know it seems daunting when you look at it, because again, you are right. We serve a unique set of students coming from underserved population and with expected family income less than $30,000 a year. We have a lot of them. Where you can write a check for your daughter, most of these parents cannot do so. They rely on payout to pay for that. But even outside of that, as I've discussed earlier, there are certain unmet needs that those students still have to have that would make them to go work, even if they are receiving Pell. And then there's also student loans that they can take, parents plus and all of that. Parents have to have good credits and all of that to be able to co-sign for them. Some of these kids are coming from homes where parents cannot do that. So you are right. It seems like a special challenge there, but if we are determined as an institution that this is an area where we want to improve, we can do so. We've lobbied, that's why we have the Chidem-wide Scholars Program, which is completely paid for, full ride. The state gives us money for it, we match it. I think we have more work to do to raise money. We're working with our institutional advancement to be able to raise money to help our students. Yes, while I admit that, yes, it is challenging, but it's not, it's entirely undoable for us. We're just gonna have to work a little harder to make sure we provide the resources that the students need.
Well, I hope our metric is designed to reflect our challenge
Sure,
and not, we're different from Chapel Hill.
no question, no question.
Now, on the Chapel Hill, my son, when he was applying for schools, we lived in Minnesota, he applied to Chapel Hill. And they talked about their state requirement for the lack of out-of-state students or the maximum. So he didn't get into there, but he got into someplace else. After the freshman year, he did very well. And thanks to me, he had no debt. So Chapel Hill came charging after him, poaching him to get their numbers better. Here's a minority kid, good GPA, no debt, profile student. How prevalent is poaching for institutions to go out and try to dress up their numbers? And just to show I'm not thinking this a bad thing, how much of that is in our process as we go forward to go out and solicit students from other institutions, because we need to have metrics to get money to grow the institution.
Well, I would say to you that there are two things that I want you to consider. Recruitment is very competitive nowadays. Even when you look at African-American students, there are African-American students who can go anywhere that they want to buy their grades. They have the grades. And so you're going to see many schools come after those, students. That is where the question of scholarships come in. The larger schools, it is true, because of larger endowment, they can offer, more scholarship to students that we can. So competition is very severe. And we are competing with all sorts of, not just within our own system, with out-of-state students as well. What I would say to you is that in order for us to remain competitive, we just have to begin to put ourselves in certain positions by making sure that we look at all of the areas that I've discussed here to be able to provide, compete by providing scholarships. There is no other way around it. And I know it sounds like a daunting challenge when we are competing with much larger institutions with larger endowments. That is true, but that shouldn't stop us from, there are other things that students are looking for when they want to come to smaller institutions, not just money. Sometimes they're looking for smaller classes. They are looking for where they can get more individualized, one-on-one training. Some students don't want to go to a school where they are one of 150 in a class. And so we still have things that make our institutions attractive outside of just the funding, and that's what we do. If you talk to NCCU alum students who graduated from here, some of you ask what makes NCCU attractive to you, it's not just the money. Some would talk about the mentoring that they receive, the care that people give them in the classroom, the attention that they receive on campus. So there are other soft metrics that would make our institution very attractive. But again, I think this is one of the reasons why I'm sharing this presentation with you, that we have work to do in some areas to be able to raise a lot of money to attract the best students to NCCU. Yeah.
Thank you, Chancellor. I just wanted to add on the comment that you made. I was recently at Duke University for an event that was about heat mapping, and there were a lot of folks from different institutions all over the state, including tribal nations in North Carolina. But all these folks were addressing climate change or heat and all that. And there was a gentleman who talked about coming to NCCU. He's an adult, so he would be like one of these adults who has been working for a long time. And there's a unique program that we have, which is the the EEGS, Earth and Geospatial Sciences. Right. And so he was talking about like ArcGIS, like geographic information systems, satellite imagery, and already made some connections with some of the professors, and was telling me about what was so meaningful about the professors, explaining about where their students have gone, how this is applicable to careers that are very rewarding. And so it was like, this is the place, like this is the place. And I think those stories, with our professors, some of the alumni, I actually graduated from earth science. So, but one of the things is like, where are they working with these cutting edge technology driven fields that are very needed?
Yes. Well, and thank you so much for talking about the geospatial science. Is one of the other things that we've also talked about. If you look at our strategic priorities, expanding our academic portfolio to be able to offer programs that are more relevant to the current workforce is also very important. We mentioned climate change, clean energy, and all of that. We need to move away we need to go deeper into STEM and biomedical sciences, and all the other areas, information technology, cybersecurity. These are the programs that would allow students for us to be competitive as well. And we are doing that. We are expanding our academic portfolio so that we can compete and bring in students who may be willing to go into this workforce. So you are right. It's not just entirely about funding and all of that. You have to have an attractive program for the students, great advising, mentoring, all of those things really, really matter. So you are a great example of one of those alum, yeah.
If there are not any additional questions, Chancellor, thank you very much for a very informative presentation. If it's possible, I think it'd really be important for the board to all have copies of that.
Yes.
So that we can digest it more, so that when we come back in September, we can have another discussion around it.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that you get it and study it well, and then we'll test you on it when you come back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Coleman, will you please come forward? And I'll let the chairman speak first, and then of course I would speak after the chairman.
First of all, trustees and also participants here today, it's very special when people are willing to give of themselves. And Trustee Coleman, over the last 8 years, has certainly done that on the Board of Trustees here at North Carolina Central University. It's really kind of funny. When I first had the chance to meet her, she was flying through the parking lot in a small BMW on 2 wheels. And I said, "Do you always drive like that?" She said, "Oh, I don't drive fast." But that's how she conducted her work. She was very conscientious of her responsibilities, what she had to do. And more importantly, she's very thorough around that. And the depth of questions that she asked were penetrating to the extent that it caused all of us to really elevate our thoughts as a board. And that's also very important to us. So with that, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want you to know that Trustee Coleman, we're going to miss you. And it'll be different hearing someone else do the roll call for our Board of Trustees. So thank you for all your service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Coleman, I'm not going to repeat all of the things that the chairman just mentioned, but I will add that when we talk about board members who are really actively engaged with the institution, trying to help us to identify resources and helping us, Trustee Coleman, having been a member at SAS, was the first one to introduce me to and Good Night over there. She brought us to the table, and that's how we secured the funding for our the program that we have in the law school on patents and stuff. It was through our effort. And because of that relationship, we continue to receive funding. And you also know that most recently from Ann Goodnight, we just also received another $1.5 million from there. She's been a real advocate for us in making sure that she can open doors. In addition to her role on the board, I think she served as state secretary through all of our term on the board. And so we certainly are going to miss you. There's no question about it, but we know that the system doesn't allow us to serve again after 8 years. Otherwise, we will be petitioning to make sure that you come back. So we want to thank you on behalf of the institution. I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done to support our mission at NCCU. This is a commendation that is presented to Trustee Coleman, and I'm going to read it. Whereas Mrs. Oida C. Coleman was first appointed to the Board of Trustees, North Carolina Central University by Governor Pat McCrory in 2015, and whereas recognizing her exceptional service and contributions, Mrs. Coleman was reappointed by the North Carolina General Assembly to serve a second term in 2019 and served a total of 8 years, 2015 to 2023. Whereas Ms. Coleman has brought her professional expertise to her role on the board, serving with distinction as Secretary of the Board, Chair of Academic and Student Affairs Committee, and member of the Executive Personnel and Governance Committee, demonstrating her deep commitment to NCCU's academic mission and the welfare of its student body. And whereas throughout her trusteeship, she has provided sound governance, strategic decision-making, and a profound commitment to the advancement of the university students, faculty, and broader community while upholding the highest standards of trusteeship and contributing to the strength and vitality of the university. And whereas her leadership on the board has been marked by keen insights, extraordinary work ethic, unwavering integrity, and deep dedication to NCCU's mission and values. And whereas Mrs. Coleman is stepping away from her current role as a member of Board of Trustees, and in recognition of her exceptional service to the university, it is both appropriate and deserving that she be accorded special honor. And now, therefore, be it resolved that North Carolina Central University issued this commendation in recognition of Mrs. Ouida C. Coleman's service and generosity to the institution and its Board of Trustees on the 28th day of June, 2023, signed by Johnson Aguilera and Kevin M. Holloway.
All right.
I am honored, beyond honored. I don't know what's beyond honored, but I appreciate so much my time here, and to be now an honorary Eagle means so much to me. I didn't know that anyone who wasn't an alumni could get one of those. So I am so again honored. So when I think back to over the last 8 years, I'm just so surprised at how fast the time has gone by. But I've sat in the meeting today and reflected on the first couple of meetings that I attended and the depth of conversation, the vision, fulfillment of vision and plans that have happened. Because I distinctly remember when the first meeting I attended, the discussion was about cash on hand. How many days and losing the Moody rating, and then to see in the presentation from an endowment standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from looking at all the facilities that have been built over the span of 8 years, you should all be proud, beyond proud of what you have accomplished from the athletics and and just the academics, the buildings, just thinking in the span of 8 years, what has happened, tremendous progress, and you should have such tremendous pride in what has been accomplished. And I am so honored to be even a small part of that. I wish I could take credit for the athletic, achievements or academic achievement, but just to be a small part, to sit and bear witness of the accomplishments, that's just been such an honor to me. So thank you.
Okay, I just have a few announcements before we close out. The next Board of Trustees meeting is scheduled for September 27. 2023. And Dr. Perkins, we'll be waiting and anticipating on all that information on how I get moved around in California and tickets for the game. All right. I'm sorry, we have a comment from Trustee Mitchell.
Thank you, trustee, chairman. In lieu of the comment you made about California, I think we have a PowerPoint. At lunchtime, that's even better. Okay, I'll make my comments at lunch. Thank you.
Okay, there being no further business before the board, I'd like to seek a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. All right.